Hi, I'm Carlin Borisenko. In early 2020, I was the knitting Democrat who accidentally went viral on the internet for going to a Trump rally and then left the party. I became the conservative darling, was on all the shows, traveled around the country, and then realized that conservatives were no better than Democrats. If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that both political tribes are two sides of the same coin. But it wasn't all bad. On my journey, I became obsessed with understanding the woke ideology and the culture war. I broke the story of the city of Seattle doing segregated training with its employees.
How bad has this stuff become? The city of Seattle has now put out, I'm not kidding you, this is according to Dr. Carolyn Borisenko, who's an organizational psychologist. The city of Seattle asked its white employees to voluntarily spend a day off in a training about their internalized racial superiority.
I broke the story that led to the first ever federal lawsuit against critical race theory in the schools. I broke the Coke Be Less White story, one of the biggest anti-woke stories of all time. It got over 30 million views. Coca-Cola's corporate headquarters even had to change their outgoing voicemail.
Throughout the past few days, you may have seen inaccurate reporting on the content of our recently launched diversity, equity, and inclusion training program.
I exposed the schools in Burlington, Vermont for grooming middle school children live on the internet. They called me an unwoke cult leader for that. And the Vermont Human Rights Commission slandered me publicly as being a hate channel. I even got called a hero in Breitbart for exposing that the Washington Post was writing a hit piece on Christopher Rufo. I have broken story after story after story about what's going on in the public schools, from Cambridge, Massachusetts, to autistic sex education, to the Department of Education in Michigan, literally training teachers all over the state how to groom children. I wrote a book called Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against the woke insanity in your life. I host a podcast all about fighting back, and I'm downloading all of my knowledge to you on my Substack, carlin.substack.com. The world is a crazy place. We are literally surrounded by cults on all sides. On this show, we're going to do a deep dive into all aspects of the culture war, and I will show you the dark, dystopian underbellies on both sides. Here are the commitments I'll make to you. I will always tell you the truth. I will always bring you receipts. And if you stick with me, I promise you will see the world differently. Welcome to the cult. Please mount that like button for me and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Well, hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I cannot even believe it's Wednesday already. Welcome to The Cult. The Cult is my almost daily show where I take you onto deep dives into the dark dystopian underbelly of the culture war, and we talk about all of the crazy things that are going on in the world, and we have a good time with it. And I need everyone to do me a favor right now, because to be honest, I'm a little confused about why I have so few viewers on the live stream right now, which makes me believe that YouTube did not send out the notification that it needs to send out or should be sending out. And so if everyone watching the live stream on YouTube could just do me a favor right now and mount that like button for me, that lets YouTube know that this is content that you want, that you appreciate, and then it will make it more likely to have it serve it to others. Because I'm going to be honest, I've actually been getting demonetized more on YouTube over the past couple days than I'm used to. I actually very rarely got demonetized on YouTube up until like about a week ago. And now, like, every live stream I'm doing, they're demonetizing it. And so I'm kind of wondering, is YouTube shadow banning my content again, which would be, really great. But you guys can all help me out. And the ways you can help me out are by making sure that you are watching the videos that I'm doing, that I'm putting up. I literally do live videos on this channel every single day of the week, except for Sundays. Sundays, I take the day off. I post clips, something like stuff like that. So whenever you see my content, you would really help me out. Just click on it. Let it play for a couple seconds, even if you don't want to watch the whole thing. That's cool. That's going to make it more likely to show up. Mounting that like button is going to make it more likely to show up. And of course, subscribing to the channel is going to make it more likely to show up as well. But we have so much to talk about today. And one of the reasons I'm kind of harping on making sure people are watching it is because, to be quite frank, today we're going to talk about one of the most shocking stories that has come out of the Socialist Conference. We are going to be talking about an organization in Western Massachusetts that is doing so much crazy stuff with kids, trans kids, non-binary kids, gender expansive kids. I have never seen anything like this. Now, the reason that I know about this organization is because they were sponsors at the Collective Power Conference, which is the socialist conference that I went to over the weekend. And I had a conversation with one of their co-directors. Now, of course, they thought that I was just like there to that I was on their team when they had the conversation with me. But I got a whole bunch of their flyers. And one of the things that I got that is probably one of the most useful things to come out of the entire socialist conference is I got a book list of a comprehensive book list of books for trans and non-binary and gender expansive and gender nonconforming and queer, etc., children. There's books for this whole first page is for elementary school kids specifically. They've got a whole section for middle school kids. They've got a whole section for young adult kids. They've got a whole page for educator books. So it's like I got the master teacher's edition of the trans book list at this conference. And so I was always planning on writing this article about this organization specifically to talk about the book list and to make sure that you guys all had access to the book list, and you can absolutely get a PDF copy of the book list in this article. However, when I started researching this organization last night and I went around their website, I took a look at the bios of the people working there, I took a look at some of the other flyers I picked up off the table. Holy hell. This organization, I almost called this article The Conversion Factory, but I didn't want to get sued because it's impossible for me to say whether or not they're like actually converting kids because I don't know. I haven't talked to the kids. I don't know. But they're providing psychotherapy to trans children starting at 2 or 3 years old, depending on who you talk to. The reason I say 2 or 3 is because the co-director of the organization that I spoke to at the conference told me that they are working with a child that is 2 years old. However, on their literature, they say they start working with them at 3 years old. So it could be one, it could be the other, 2 or 3. Either way, pretty effing young. They're doing psychotherapy with these kids. They have support groups for these kids. They have a mentoring program in which they are pairing up trans and non-binary children with adults, trans and non-binary adults that are not members of their family, not friends, just strangers. And they let the kids go hang out with the adults in private places to create their own private, confidential experience. What could possibly go wrong? They are working in K through 12 schools. They are working in libraries. And when I read you the bios of some of the people that are doing therapy with these trans 3-year-olds, you're going to be shocked. Legitimately shocked. It takes a lot to shock me at this point. I have gotten thoroughly desensitized to all of this chaos. So it takes quite a bit to shock me. I was sitting here last night in complete horror of what I was reading. And that's not an exaggeration. General Armageddon says, how do you know this, General Armageddon? Starting about an hour ago, Russia started to lay waste to Ukraine. Nationwide airstrikes. Kharkiv is getting leveled to the ground, plus Putin shot down a NATO satellite. How do you know this? Because the reason I ask is for people who don't know, my husband is from Ukraine. My husband's brother, my brother-in-law, is in the Ukraine army. And I think he's actually at the front. And so I would like to know how you know that, because I haven't heard about that yet. All right, guys, but we have other stuff. So this is where we're going to spend the most of our time today, is going through this article. I'm going to show you the evidence. I'm going to show you the receipts, that sort of thing. We do have some other stuff we want to talk about, including this latest release from Project Veritas within the last couple of hours, where they're showing the conversion therapy that is going on with these trans kids as well. They've got new video that's come out. We'll watch that. We're going to talk about this bill in Washington. that Washington bill to allow medical transgender interventions on minors without parental consent. Oh, good. Good. That doesn't seem like anything can go wrong with that. We're also we're gonna do a lot of heavy stuff at the beginning of the show. So I want to do some lighter stuff towards the end of the show, just to give you a little preview. We're going to talk about the latest media organization that has rage quit Twitter. We got another one, folks, and we're going to talk about Elon Musk's response to that, because this is one of the most hilarious things that I've seen in a while. We're going to talk about people using AI art to make Republican influencers into drag queens, which I totally and completely approve of, and I think it's fabulous. And just to round things out for the rest of the show, we're going for our moment of zen today. We are going to listen to John Fetterman attempt to give a coherent speech as he chairs a committee hearing in the Senate, just to really put the cherry on top of how effed up the world is. John Fetterman is indeed still a United States Senator. So that's what we got on the docket today, guys. Now, of course, please make sure you are not only subscribed to my channel, not only have notifications turned on the channel, which apparently they didn't go off today for some reason, but also please make sure you are subscribed to my Substack, my main Substack, which is Karlyn, Karlyn, .substack.com. This is where I publish all of my Unwoke content. This is where I give you the really good stuff, where I bring you the receipts. We've got all sorts of different series on the Substack breaking down the woke ideology. You know, I got a lot of comments when I posted that YouTube video from the Socialist Conference, where I was basically that short one that I did right after the conference, where people were like, I'm not going to Substack, make a video. And I'm like, well, if you're too lazy to click a link to go to Substack, then you don't really want the content, do you? And that's how I feel about it, guys. Sometimes writing and presenting receipts is just better done on another medium. Video is something I will usually follow up with for content on my Substack. But if you want to be the very first to see the content that we do end up covering on this show, you want to make sure you subscribe on Substack, because you'll get an email as soon as I post it. I usually do follow up with a video later, but sometimes I don't. And so that's the very best way you can keep in touch. It also makes sure that if I get a strike or something happens to this channel, I have a way to get in touch with you. So make sure you sign up for free on my Substack. But of course, if you want to support the work I'm doing, and quite frankly, make it possible to go to the next socialist event that I want to go to, because I already know what it is. The next socialist conference I go to is going to be much bigger than this past weekend, and there's going to have to be plans and provisions put in place, because I can only pull this stunt once and like fly under the radar. All right, I have played my card. I pulled the stunt of going to the socialist conference. They now know that I'm doing this, and so I need to put a few other precautions in place. And there's some other stuff going on as well. To cut it short, I need your help if you want me to keep going to these socialist events and exposing them. The very best way you can help me is by becoming a monthly or annual subscriber on my Substack for $5 a month, $50 a year. That's going to give you access to all of my premium content. It's going to get you access to all of my supporter perks, to include 2 Zoom calls every single week, to include my supporter only Discord, where we have movie nights on Sunday. We're watching The Wolf of Wall Street this week, to include other supporter perks that come up as well. Now, you can also support me by going to activelyunwoke.com/support. You can join my locals community, kb.locals.com. You can join my Patreon. You can make a one-time gift at activelyunwoke.com/support. But I really do try to get everyone signed up in my Substack, because that's where you're going to get all of my very best content. And a lot of my content now is behind a paywall, because I want to keep the good stuff for people who are actually, they have skin in the game, they're supporting my work. And so that's how we do it. And this will be the way that I fund the next socialist expose. All right. So $5 a month, $50 a year. I promise I'm going to make it worth it for you. I do a newsletter every single week that tells you exactly what I've done for you, what content I've created, where I've spent my time, so that you know that when you're giving me money, I am actually giving you content that you hopefully enjoy and appreciate. And most importantly, will share with your friends and family, so that other people can see what is going on in the world. I always bring receipts. I always back up what I'm saying. I'm not just doing this off of conjecture or rumor or innuendo or hypothesis. I always back up what I'm saying so that you can see for yourself what is going on and you can decide for yourself what that means. Now, speaking of socialism, quick programming note. I have a couple of streams coming up. I do regular long form streams, deep diving into their content. We do them on happy hour on Fridays at 5 p.m. And then we do socialism Saturday at 6 p.m. And I've got our presentations picked out for the week. On Friday, we're actually going to watch one of these socialist pro-abortion journalists who was at the socialist conference I was at over the weekend. Her name is Amy Littlefield. And Amy Littlefield, right before the election, actually wrote a hit piece on me because apparently I'm not too pro-choice enough for Amy Littlefield. It's not enough to be pro-choice anymore. You have to be more pro-choice than most of the population to really be considered pro-choice. Anyway, Amy Littlefield was also covering the socialist conference, and everyone was very excited. And I found a presentation where Amy Littlefield is working working with the Institute for the Study of Male Supremacy. That is a real thing. And she gave a presentation not too long ago about anti-abortion history. And so I thought for happy hour this week, we would watch Amy's presentation about anti-abortion history, just keeping in mind that Amy is a pro-abortion zealot. And so I think that'll be really interesting. We do that for happy hours on Fridays at 5 p.m. where we basically get some drinks. I get some craft beer and we watch a full woke presentation from start to finish and we talk about it. So you can join us for that. We always have a good time. And then on Saturday, you know, I got a lot of new subscribers this week because of the socialism conference video that kind of went baby viral on YouTube. And because I have so many new subscribers this week that are so excited about the socialist content, I thought that we needed to go back to our favorite socialist topic for Socialism Saturday. Now, Socialism Saturday is a stream that I do on Saturdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, so 1 hour later than usual, because my weekend too, I have other stuff I need to do. But our favorite topic for Socialism Saturday, we watch real socialists. Happy Hour is more kind of like a general kind of leftist training. With Socialism Saturday, we go to the farthest of the far left. Real socialists, real Marxists, real communists, self-identified. They have no gumption about saying who they are and what they're doing. And we watch them from start to finish. And our favorite topic, or maybe it's just my favorite topic because it is the most dystopian of the dystopian, is abolish the family. This is a real thing. We are going to watch our favorite abolish the family activist. Her name is Sophie Lewis. Sophie Lewis works at the University of Pennsylvania. I'm not joking about that. Ivy League school. She is presented at so many different Ivy League schools, it's ridiculous. And she has written 2 books about abolishing the family and making the case for full surrogacy now. In other words, they want to get rid of the biological family and they want all children to be born via surrogacy. This is something I have actually covered on my Substack. If you want real dystopian, we're going to talk about the fact that some of them are trying to figure out how to use brain dead bodies in order to gestate the children. That's real. There was a journal article about it a couple months ago. So because we have so many new members of my channel, welcome. Let me just throw you into the deep end and show you abolish the family. And that way we can all kind of level out and realize that it's so much worse than what your conservative influencers are telling you. It really, really is. And that's why I do this show. That's why we do the cult. That's why I do deep dives into the dark dystopian underbellies of both sides of the political aisle. We might have, by the way, for people who think Carlin, you've only been covering the far left lately. I'm pretty sure we're going to have Nick Fuentes watch party tonight. So just get ready for that. Just kind of not like maybe around 10, 11 o'clock tonight, I might go live for Nick Fuentes After Dark. So don't think that I'm just focusing on the far left. I want to talk about this Nick Fuentes, Ali Alexander stuff too. I just haven't had a chance to do it because I've been focusing on this socialism stuff. Anyway, so mark your calendars for that. We're going to do that Saturday at 6 p.m. If you have never seen it before, you need to come. Get some drinks. Get some cocktails, maybe even a little bit more than a cocktail if you want something a little stronger. and come and see the most dystopian content you will see all week on the internet. I promise you that. All right, guys, let's jump in and let's talk about this organization called Translate Gender that is based in Western Massachusetts. It's in Northampton, Massachusetts, which is the home of Smith College. And we're going to talk about that. Let's just get these couple of super chats. Brain dead for surrogates, but my body, my choice. Well, hang on. They have them sign off. It would be voluntary. So it's not like they would have them sign off before they die. So that's that, good try, but that's not going to work for that one. Seeing you have one big chance at a covert mission, maybe see James O'Keefe in one of his hidden cameras. Okay, guys, this is the last time I'm going to say this. I have reached out to James O'Keefe. James O'Keefe is very well aware of what I'm doing. I know that because I had a whole conversation with him about it. James O'Keefe tried very hard for me to get me to give him all of my materials that he could just take and run with it. I was not open to doing that because I've worked really hard on the materials and the sources that I've developed and the techniques I've used to do it. I was perfectly willing to work with James O'Keefe to try to work together on some of this stuff. James O'Keefe didn't want to do that because I refused to hand over all of my materials to him without question. And so if James O'Keefe wants to get in touch with me, then James O'Keefe knows how to get in touch with me. James O'Keefe is welcome to get in touch with me. But what I am absolutely not going to do under any circumstances is hand over all of my work and all of my journalism to James O'Keefe to have him run with it and take credit for my work without even acknowledging where it came from. That's what I'm worried about. And maybe my concerns are unfounded, but I'll tell you that as soon as I broached that topic and said, no, I'm not just going to give you all of my stuff to do with what you will, he stopped responding. So I know that a lot of people are telling me to go to James O'Keefe. I quite frankly do not trust that my work is going to be utilized in the way that I have intended it to be utilized if I do. And that's no shade on him. I think that he does really good work. I was really disappointed in how that whole conversation played out. But because I've had so many people say, Carlin, you need to go to James O'Keefe. You need to go to James O'Keefe. I want you to really be aware that I did and that there was a conversation and that it was made very clear to me that I would not, that his terms were the only terms that mattered to him. And I'm not playing that game. So it is what it is, guys. But don't worry, I have other people that I'm working with. James O'Keefe is not the only people that I have contacts with, okay? So there are other people that I am working with. There are other plans that I have in place. I've been doing this covert stuff for about 1.5 years now, first online, and now we're figuring it out in person. So I don't need no James O'Keefe. James O'Keefe can come and work with me in the way that I want to work. And again, like I said, I'm open to being collaborative. I'm open to any sort of discussion about arrangements that don't involve me handing over all of my work to him and then him taking credit for my work. That's what I'm concerned about. Anyway, let's dig right into it and let's talk about the third article, the third official article in the My Day with the Socialist series. And this is absolutely the most shocking and, quite frankly, a little bit blackpilling thing that I've seen yet. Allow me to introduce you to an organization called Translate Gender. Translate Gender is a 501c3 nonprofit in Northampton, Massachusetts that is rewriting access for trans, non-binary, and gender-conforming people in relationship, family, and community. Translate Gender was a sponsor of the Collective Power Conference, where I was able to pick up a bunch of their materials. Again, all I did was I went up to the table, I picked up their flyers. I had a brief conversation with one of the directors and I asked them some questions. It was very cordial. It was very nice. I had no problem with it because they thought I was one of them, but I did actually get these materials directly from them. And Translate Gender begins offering gender affirming psychotherapy and support services for trans and non binary children beginning at either 2 or 3 years old, depending on who you talk to. Their co director, James, told me they were working with 2 year olds when I spoke to him, they, at their table at the conference, but the flyer I picked up at the table says that they start at 3 years old. So it's all very confusing. I don't know if they're starting to work with children at 2 years old or 3 years old. Maybe it was a miscommunication, but I think we can all agree that when we look at this flyer and we see 3 to 9 in the youth category, we can make the assumption that they are at least minimally starting to work with trans children at 3 years old, possibly a year earlier. Now let's look at this flyer. You can see it's got their giant logo at the top. Youth and family gatherings, designed to aid caregivers and youth in creating larger networks of support and sharing resources. These open ended family groups include all members of trans families, caregivers and parents, trans and non binary youth between the ages of 3 to 18, their siblings, grandparents, and extended community. We provide 4 separate spaces for participants to connect: adults and caregivers and family members, teens, 13 plus, tweens, 9 to 12, and youth, 3 to 9. And of course, they have a donation for that. And that's that first flyer. Sadly, you can't join their virtual book club for trans and non binary youth, which is called Affirmations, until you're 8 years old. Now, I don't think that this has any function at all to do with not wanting to unduly influence children before their brain is fully developed. I think this has to do with reading level, right? Because 8 years old is what, third grade? So you're getting to a point where you can actually start to like read and understand more like larger books, like in the third grade, right? So they have this affirmations book club. Oh, excuse me. Affirmations trans book club for ages 8 to 14. It's on the first Tuesday of the month and they meet via Zoom. How nice is that? Nice and convenient. Join our virtual book club for trans and non binary youth, ages 8 through 14. Readers can explore, question, and connect with one another through books centering trans, non binary, and gender creative characters. And they even, if you go and buy the books yourself at the bookstore, they even have a discount at the bookstore for the kids to go and to buy the trans books themselves at the bookstore. Isn't that convenient? However, even though you have to be 8 years old to participate in the book club, I do have some good news. You only have to be 5 to join their PAL program for non binary and gender expansive youth. And there's the flyer for the PAL program. We'll read this in a second. What does PAL stand for, do you think? PAL stands for Possibility Adult Leader. They will be your very own trans or non-binary mentor. And I see I'm missing an E in that. Thy. Hey, maybe that works too, actually, a little bit. When you, as the trans, non-binary, gender expansive 5-year-old, connect with your possibility adult leader, your pal will center your passion and joy in a confidential, easygoing setting that you co-create together. What could possibly go wrong? Looking for a pal? Are you a trans, non-binary, or gender expansive young person, ages 5 through 18? Getting connected with one of our pals, aka Possibility Adult Leader, who serves as your very own trans or non-binary mentor. All pals center your passion and joy in a confidential, easygoing setting that you co-create together. It's up to you. Maybe you want to write poetry, learn a new dance, visit a museum or art gallery, shop for gender affirming clothes together, play a sport, or do something else, possibly in a more private, secluded setting. Sessions for youth are in person in Western Massachusetts, and virtual sessions are also available. Now, I know what you're wondering. Does this amazing organization that starts working with children at 2 or 3 years old, depending on who you talk to, do they also work in K through 12 schools? Yes. Yes, they do. Their inclusion initiative offers training and workshops for all sorts of groups, including K through 12 schools. This is the flyer about their inclusion initiative. The Inclusion Initiative is a project of Translate Gender, a trans-led nonprofit. We offer supportive frameworks, trainings, workshop, inclusion, and equity assessments, and technical assistance for creating accountable and inclusive environments for trans, non-binary, and gender expansive people. Who we work with from K through 12 schools to higher education institutions, grassroots group, to nonprofit orgs, and local businesses. We support growth around issues related to gender, from trainings and admin support to create inclusive policies that impact trans people and their families, to personalized, interactive workshops and discussions. Our approach: we utilize curriculum and tools that created for and by our communities. Our training modules are customizable, and all our offerings are tailored to meet your specific needs. We use real life examples as learning opportunities and work to meet you where you are. We believe that training alone isn't the answer, and with supportive policies and practices and ongoing conversations and advocacy, our communities can thrive wherever they are, especially in schools. Jen, thank you for the super chat. That one book about my aunt is a monster sounds like an imaginary friend. Is that how they're duping kids? I don't know the answer to that, Jen, but that's a really good observation and a good question. There are so many books on that list. I'm going to go and make a whole Twitter thread of all of the books on that list just so people can see how many there are. And by the way, guys, this is why I'm not in favor of book banning, because they're churning out these books all the time. You get one book out of school, they're going to replace it with 5 more. You get those 5 out, they're going to replace each of those with 5 more. And it's like you're constantly like chasing your tail and you're getting nowhere because like it doesn't work. It doesn't actually have the impact you think it has. And so yeah. Yeah. Yeah, James does a good job at looking at the philosophical framework behind this. Where I focus and where I'm different than James Lindsay is my focus is entirely 100% on practical application. So I'm looking at their trainings, I'm looking at their college lectures, I'm looking at their course their curriculum, I'm looking at their school policy, I'm doing stuff like this. So James and I generally do come to the same conclusions, but we do it in different ways, which I think is actually really important. But I do recommend, if you want to get into the philosophy behind it, I absolutely recommend you look into him. Moving on. Now, just recently, Translate Gender did actually team up with a teen librarian at the Medfield Public Library to host an LGBTQ plus youth summer series, excuse me. It went so well that they expanded the program to multiple libraries and organizations across the state. This is a review that I found on a review website because this organization has like a great nonprofit badge on their website. And so I followed this nonprofit like award badge to a review site where people are leaving reviews about the organization. And I found this review. I am the teen librarian at the Medfield Public Library. And 2 years ago, I teamed up with the amazing people at Translate Gender to put together an LGBTQ plus youth summer series. We extended this series last year to include multiple libraries and organizations across the state. This collaboration offered a variety of in-person and virtual programs and events that included book clubs, art projects, and informational sessions. I really enjoyed planning this series with James, who James is the co-director of the organization, who made everything feel so easy. He was also super supportive and engaged with all collaborators. Working with Translate Gender was an amazing and rewarding experience, and I can't recommend them highly enough. They are doing such important work with our LGBTQ plus youth, and I can't wait to continue to provide programs and events with them. Since they seem to work with schools and libraries, you might be wondering if they also have a comprehensive book list of trans and non binary books for kids, even perhaps beginning in elementary school. And indeed, they do have that list. They do. If you're wondering what books to look for in libraries that teach kids about being trans and non binary, this is a wonderful resource. Now, remember, and I'm serious about this, I don't condone book banning, and I think it's a really bad idea. And I have railed against it from the beginning. And Moms for Liberty can go F themselves. Moms for Liberty has done more damage to the anti woke movement with this book banning bullshit than like any other organization out there. And if you want to know, why I do not approve of the book banning, you can follow the link in the article and you can read the article that I wrote about it. However, I am completely in favor of adults taking personal responsibility for them and their children and their family. And, as long as we're not infringing on what other people are doing, I don't really care, right? But if you just want a list of books that maybe you want to keep an eye out for to make, like, if your kids have them or something like that, this is going to be a really great resource. The list has elementary school books, middle school books, young adult books. They even have a book list and curriculum resources for educators. I don't give a fuck for all of the reasons that I have explicitly stated at least 5 dozen times on this channel. And I know you've been in some of those streams, so don't pretend you haven't. I don't care. You are wasting your time. You are wasting your energy. You are wasting your resources. You are giving the left something that they can use against all of us forever ad nauseum, and they have. It has done more damage to the perception of what the anti woke space is than almost anything that you can possibly do. And guess what? Your little darlings are going to find out about sex at some point. Many of you may remember a time when they hid Playboys under their mattress. And when you are banning books in the libraries, you are actually making those books more enticing for your kids who probably wouldn't have read them anyway. And now all of a sudden, mom and dad don't want me to read this book. I have to find out what's in the book. So don't. I have had this conversation on this channel 19 ways from Sunday. I have laid it all out. If you guys want to continue to focus on things that don't matter, go right ahead, I guess. But I'm not going to coddle this 1 second longer. So much time and energy and resources have been absolutely wasted, thrown out the goddamn window because of the book banning bullshit. I am so tired of it. It is ridiculous. And that's the last thing I'm going to say on that for right now. But here are your book lists. And you can see there's a lot of books. This is just for elementary school kids right there. There's a lot of books that are coming out, have been coming out for a long time. And you know what? Every second that conservatives have spent on trying to get books banned, you know what they could have been doing? They could have been writing books of their own to be able to match all of this stuff that's come out in the last several years. They've got middle school books, they've got young adult books, they've got books for educators, they've got curriculum resources. Where is this from the right? Oh, I'm sorry. They were too busy trying to ban one specific book out of a library, not realizing that book was going to be replaced with 15 other goddamn books. But they got that one book out of the library, so winning, we got one. Do you guys see now why the book banning bullshit doesn't go well? . Focus on things that actually matter. But if you want to download this full book list, you can find the PDF on this website, and it's freely available because I wanted it to be available for people. And so you can go and download the book list, and then you just have it with you. There you go. No harm, no foul. Now, here's where we're going to get into the good stuff. Buckle up, folks. Sometimes your trans and non-binary children need some attention that is, shall we say, a bit more up close and personal. Translate Gender offers gender affirming psychotherapy. You and your kids can get therapy for individual, couple, polyship. Who knows what that means in the chat? Polyship. Or family therapy that utilizes a trans feminist therapeutic approach in working with LGBTQ plus IA adolescents. And for adults, their practice expands to polyamorous and BDSM relationships. How convenient is that? You can get your trans 3-year-old the psychotherapy that they desperately need at 3 years old to affirm their gender. And in the same location, you can also get help for your poly or BDSM relationship. It's like a one-stop shop. How great. This is from their website. All of these are screenshots from their website. And now what I need is for everyone in the chat to stop talking about the books. I don't want to see one more chat about the books. If I see one more chat about the books, that means you aren't listening to what I'm telling you right now. And this is actually more important. This is where we're going to learn to focus on things that are actually important. We're not talking about polygamy. We're talking about polyamory. Polyamory is just when you're in a relationship with more than one person. That's all it is. So this is from their gender-affirming psychotherapy website. Individual therapy. Gender Translate provides individual, couple, polyship, and family therapy focused on supporting and affirming gender complexity in all people. Translate Gender. Apparently I get a little dyslexic sometimes. Translate Gender therapists utilize a trans feminist therapeutic approach in working with LGBTQIA plus adolescents, individuals, and families. Our practice extends to working with couples, polyamorous relationships, BDSM relationships, as well as working with those in alternative family structures. Now, here's the really, 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 really exciting part. Do you guys want to meet some of the therapists that will be working with the 2 or 3-year-old trans kids, depending on who you ask, how young they start? Do you guys want to meet some of the therapists? Mount that like button for me if you would like to meet some of the gender affirming psychotherapists at Translate Gender. First off, we have Owen. Owen, he, him. Owen is currently a clinical social work intern at the Smith School for Social Work and is in the process of obtaining his Master's of Social Work. He has experience working with LGBTQIA plus college students and has taught workshops on gender and sexuality to students and faculty at UMass Amherst. That is the University of Massachusetts Amherst. That is public university, taxpayer funded. Owen's academic work has focused on transgender youth and building systems of support. Owen is interested in working with transgender children, adolescents, and their families. Owen takes a strength-based approach to his work, using a humanistic and narrative approach to facilitate open dialogue. He believes the therapeutic relationship should be one of empowerment and collaboration, including awareness of the individual in their own environment. Owen works hard to fight against systems of oppression and uplift the communities he works with. Outside of Smith and Gender Translate, Owen loves to spend time outside, biking, hiking, playing soccer, and swimming. He also enjoys playing video games and solving his Rubik's Cube 30-second average and hanging out with his wife and their 2 cats. So that's Owen. Obviously woke, but maybe okay, maybe, but let's move on. Let's move on. Meet Shay. They, he. Shay is the co-director and a clinical social work intern that is responsible for this organization's entire clinical practice. I need everyone to sit down. Remember, we maintain a certain amount of calm on this channel, okay? I don't do outrage porn. I don't do any of that. We all need to relax, take a few deep breaths, and enhance our calm for the bio that I'm about to read to you. Shay is Translate Gender's co-director and oversees our clinical services. He is an MSW, Masters of Social Work, candidate at the Smith College for Social Work. As part of their first year internship with Translate Gender, they founded COACT, a trans, gender expansive, and or non-binary youth community theater collective. Shay has a history as a sexuality and relationships educator and a community theater creator. He identifies as a queer, fag, trans, non binary immigrant living in the United States since 2015. Shay is a Jew of color and a white Ashkenazi Jew who speaks both Hebrew and English. Shay identifies as CRIP with a capital C, being neurodivergent and disabled. Informed by intersectional and decolonized theories and politics, Shay incorporates creativity, storytelling, basic attendance, and play centering on the client's narratives, needs, and desires. He has long-term experience supporting kiddos and youth in their journey to gender self-determination, self-expression, and non-judgmental exploration of identities, including but not limited to gender. The framework that ground his practice are gender justice and anti-racism, intersectional analysis, body positivity and radical self-love, disability justice, and of course, anti-capitalist forms of care and community. And just if you thought it can't get any better, let's read this last paragraph. When working with adults, his interests and areas of clinical focus include queer sexualities, including kink, leather, and BDSM, non-monogamy, non-hierarchical forms of relationships, sexual trauma, and somatic care, and, of course, spirituality. That, ladies and gentlemen, is Shay, the director of the clinical services for the organization providing gender-affirming psychotherapy to 3-year-old trans children. Let's keep going. Next up, we have Ellie. Ellie is in the process of obtaining their MSW from Smith College School for Social Work and is a clinical social work intern. Ellie's practice is deeply informed by their academic work with women and gender studies, as well as their community organizing experience, each helping to provide a social justice lens for their work today. Their perspective is also informed by queer theory and disability justice, which have been helpful for understanding a broad range of experiences and viewing a person or persons with a larger context of all the systems and communities they interact with. Ellie has gravitated towards a feminist approach for therapy because it allows room to consider the context of the individuals that the individuals exist within. Ellie's areas of interest include working with adolescents, working with families, couples, polyships, sex therapy, mindfulness, somatic and narrative therapies, as well as various therapeutic art modalities. No matter who Ellie is working with, they strive to co create a judgment free, validating space where people feel comfortable to be themselves. Social work is inherently collaborative, and Ellie seeks to encourage the agency and self determination of each individual they work with because they are the experts in their own experiences. Next up, we have Shannon, and Shannon is one of the co founders of Translate Gender. Shannon is a sex educator, gender justice activist, and an LGBTQIA family therapist who was clinically trained at the Smith School for Social Work and the Eastern Group Psychotherapy Society in New York. She currently resides and practices in the Pioneer Valley of Massachusetts. However, she lived in New York City for over a decade, and during that time co-founded the advocacy and education organization Translate Gender, Inc. Shannon has a broad range of expertise, having completed clinical trainings in anxiety disorders, depressive and mood disorders, dual diagnosis, sexuality and gender identity concerns, grief, loss, and trauma. Shannon utilizes a trans feminist therapeutic approach in working with differently gendered adolescents, individuals, and trans families. Her interests extend to working with couples, polyamorous relationships, polyships, and groups, and she especially enjoys working with those in alternative family structures. You know how we talked about abolishing the biological family? Why do you think this woke leftist, uber leftist organization is so focused on alternative family structures? Can we connect those dots? In the Communist Manifesto, they call for the abolition of the family this weekend on Socialism Saturday at 6 p.m. We're going to be watching a whole video about a socialist talking about abolishing the family. And right now, we're reading about an organization that sponsored the Socialist Reproductive Justice Conference I was at over the weekend. And all of these psychotherapists that were all trained at Smith College, apparently, appear to be really into alternative family structures. Now, there's nothing wrong with having an alternative family structure on its own, like everything is neutral. I'm just saying there are an awful lot of things that seem to be adding up to abolishing the biological family, and I hope people can see that. Her clinical orientation is influenced by both the narrative and the open dialogue traditions, and she is currently a senior clinical associate at the Institute of Dialogic Practice, founded by Mary Olson in Northampton, Massachusetts. In addition to her private practice at Translate Gender, she works with the Gender and Family Project at the Ackerman Institute at the group practice Northampton Sex Therapy Associates. Shannon published a paper in Women and Therapy Journal, introduced her trans feminist therapeutic approach, and the paper is titled Gender Disorder as Gender Oppression, a trans feminist approach to rethinking pathologicalization of gender nonconformity. That's Shannon. And then our last one is Davis, and Davis is also a co-director of Translate Gender. Davis, they, them. Davis graduated from Smith College School of Social Work in 2011. They relocated to the Pioneer Valley from San Francisco. That's shocking. They specialize in working with gender nonconforming queer and trans children, adolescents, and adults. They are a provider at the Center for Psychotherapy and Social Justice, which they co-founded and co-direct. They are a co-director of Translate Gender, where they currently co-lead 2 therapy groups in Northampton, one for trans and gender nonconforming young people and their families, and the other for trans and gender nonconforming caregivers. Davis has previously worked with adults experiencing extreme states of mind and/or major life disruptions, and in a community mental health setting for children and families. Davis self-identifies as queer and non-binary trans. I think that any transgender, gender expansive, non-binary child would be very lucky to work with any of these obviously well-adjusted people who have done the work for years on their own baggage to be ready to care for the mental health of the most vulnerable among us. How do people feel about that? That's the end of the article. People are free to leave a comment on the article and let me know. But I'm interested in the chat. How do you guys feel about translate gender? Are they doing the Lord's work? What do you think? Does any of this surprise you? Let me know in the chat. We'll give that a second for the replies to come in. In the meantime, I'll take the super chat from Naruto. Off topic, I just saw that Glenn Beck is going to discuss the recent Netflix Waco documentary on his show tonight. This is the 30th anniversary. Well, that'll be interesting, Naruto. I did kind of watch it. I kind of watched it. I like half watched it in the hotel the night before the socialist conference. So I do like it seemed very like fed to me, to be honest. Like it seemed very enamored with the ATF. Yep, looks like you guys had basically the same reaction I did. I can't believe this is real life. I don't want to share a country with these people. Communism is godless, not good. The energy is dark. Nope. Not surprised. Doesn't surprise me. Face, laugh, nervous laugh, I hope. Sounds unethical. It does sound unethical. It does, doesn't it? Jan's like, nope. Yeah. Yeah. So, guys, here's what I need everyone to do. I would really like to spread the word on this one as much as possible. So I'm putting the link in the chat on YouTube, and actually let me pop over to is Rumble working now? Rumble wasn't working earlier, but I can pop over to some other, well, you can just go to Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. It's literally pinned right to the top, and I need people to share this. I need you to share it on Facebook. I need you to share it on Twitter. I need you to share it on whatever other social media platform you're on. I don't care if you only have 2 followers. I need you to share it. If you retweet the thread that I posted about this and do like a quote tweet, I will retweet you. So you can go on my Twitter, Dr. Carlin B, and find the thread that I posted about this. If you do a quote tweet of that thread, I will retweet you. Or you can tag me in your post on it. Either way, I will retweet you. And so please help me share it. Please help me get the word out, because strangely, there are a lot of conservative media personalities who know about this because I've told them about it. And they all follow me anyway, and they all get my emails anyway because they're all on my mailing list. And strangely, none of them have covered it yet. Now, these are people that are not above like stealing my work and covering it without crediting me, which I wouldn't actually mind in this case so much because I actually just want the story out. But it would be really nice considering that conservative media is not going to step up again. It would be really nice if we could help work together to get the word out as much as possible, because I can't control whether or not conservative media does their goddamn job. All I can control is getting the information and putting it out there so that you guys can read it and then hopefully share it. And if you appreciate the work I'm doing, please support it. You can subscribe on my Substack, $5 a month, $50 a year. I'm not funded by anyone. I don't have $700 million to pay a settlement like Fox News does. I am doing this on my own. And so I can only do it with your support. So if you can sign up for a monthly subscription to keep me going and to fund future socialism conferences, which is exactly where that money's going to go, please make sure you sign up. $5 a month, $50 a year. It really does make all the difference, and I really do appreciate it. Naruto says, random, I feel old moment Netflix is officially shutting down DVD shipments. I mean, does anyone even watch DVDs anymore? It is what it is. Life goes on. All right, guys, in conjunction with this, I do want to watch this video from Project Veritas, just came out today. Let me just get this set up so we can actually hear the sound. Hang on, stand by. Please mount that like button while you're waiting for me to set this up. This video came out from Project Veritas a little while ago. Now, I know that a lot of people have issues with the way that James O'Keefe left Project Veritas. I do. However, there are too few people in this space exposing what's going on, and beggars can't be choosers. And even though I don't think that Project Veritas handled that situation well, and I wish it had happened differently, there are still a lot of good people at Project Veritas who are just trying to do good work. And so I'm not going to turn up my nose at anyone that is exposing this stuff. They are good people. They are kind people. I've known some of them for a while, like way before this. And while I don't like what happened with the James O'Keefe stuff, we can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. It doesn't make sense. And by the way, as annoyed as I am at James O'Keefe, if he is exposing good stuff, then I would share that too. And I know he is. I haven't been able to keep up with it lately, but I know he's doing a good job as well. But this just happened to be exposed today, and it goes along with the subject I was talking about. And so that's why we're going to watch it. But before we get that, Parrot Girl tattoo. Nope, there it is. Godspeed, Carlin. You're doing good work. I'm really trying, Parrot Girl. I do appreciate the super chat. So let's see. What does Project Veritas have here? Oh, Prisha's on there. Prisha is a very brave detransitioner. Good for her. Breaking Part 1. Multi-state investigation exposes WPATH, connected transgender health doctors prescribing puberty blockers to minors as young as 8 years old and irreversible cross-gender hormones to minors as young as 14 years old. Most kids are mature enough to make relatively informed decisions. Well, we might have to agree to disagree on that. We do have patients who are starting transition as young as 8. It's almost like that article that we just looked at, right? And cross-gender hormones have some permanent effects. I need the patient to be mature enough to make a relatively informed decision. I get it. There are some 14-year-olds that are not, mature, but generally speaking, they're usually pretty good. Well, no, because the brain is not fully developed until we are in our early to mid 20s. So that's not true. Rosalind, thank you for the super chat. This is really out there. I know, Rosalind, and I appreciate the super chat. And Brian, honestly, none of this surprised me. It's been in the LGBT for years. Ain't that the truth, Brian? Ain't it the truth? All right, let's watch this video from Project Veritas. And it's about 11 minutes long.
We do have patients who are starting as young as 8, 9. We have a list of gender-affirming therapists that we can provide too.
Pediatric trans care definitely exists.
They said it was transition or suicide. Like, I was given no choice. I was told you will kill yourself if you don't go through with these treatments.
It's very much, pro-hormone, pro-changes. If you don't do this, your child will kill themselves. That is the most common theme.
You don't think anybody can do that 14-year-old to do the surgery? I've never done a 10-year-old. Yeah. To be quite fair with you, I've done 15, 16.
So Mount Sinai Adolescent Clinic, they started age 10. She did say this about surgery.
The way to go at this age 10, would be something like a puberty blocker. When you then get to age 14, is when I'll consider some, cross-gender hormones. 14 is a reasonable age. Most kids are mature enough to make a relatively informed decision.
No. Anyone who says that you can change your sex is lying to you. You will be chasing constant drugs and surgeries for the rest of your life.
10 years old come in by themselves. 10, 11, yes.
Most of the kids are nowhere in any kind of a brain space to really talk about it in a serious way. We still want the kids to be happier in the moment, right?
The science isn't really settled about the best way to do that.
And he is getting his vagina next week.
So we brought in our own therapist to write up letters that rubber stamp our surgeries.
And they have to understand that the surgery itself is irreversible.
So on that very first appointment with Shayna Gordon, she told me my projected path. She said, you are going to get top surgery and bottom surgery because you need it to be aligned. And I will write you your letters of recommendation when you need them for the next one. Here's yours for hormones, but this is your path.
Meet Prisha Mosley. At age 25, she is undergoing the gender detransition process after medical professionals convinced her as a troubled teenager that she was a boy, needed to inject testosterone, and have a double mastectomy just after her 18th birthday.
I began testosterone within weeks by getting a letter of recommendation, which the trans community told me I needed to unlock all treatment. So I found a gender-affirming therapist who was certified by WPATH online, and I had a very brief, 15 to 30-minute appointment with her wherein she told me that I was a boy. So then I took that letter of recommendation to a pediatric endocrinologist, and that very same day, I started testosterone. And then not even a whole year later, at 18, I had a radical double mastectomy.
Project Veritas has previously reported on WPATH, the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. WPATH is at the epicenter of the nearly billion-dollar industry diagnosing gender dysphoria and the subsequent sex reassignment surgery market.
Some of the Dutch researchers gave some data about young adults who had transitioned and reproductive regret. And it's there. And I don't think any of that surprises us. I already talked about it, but most of the kids are nowhere in any kind of a brain space to really, really, really talk about it in a serious way. That's always bothered me, but we still want the kids to be happier in the moment, right?
At the core of our investigation is just how quickly medical professionals will offer life-altering treatments to young children, which begs the question, how young is too young?
I've never done a 10-year-old, to be quite fair with you. I've done 15, 16.
Meet Dr. Matthew Pabis, a family medicine specialist at the St. Mark's Institute in New York City. Here, he admits that he performs transgender surgery on children as young as 15.
You don't think anybody can do that for a 10-year-old to do the surgery? They could, yeah. That's what we're looking for. That's definitely a psychiatrist to sign off on it. Okay. 100%. If we were able to get that though from a certified psychiatrist, we could bring that into the person, and it wouldn't be like, oh, they're too young. Again, I'm going to hook you up with the groups that actually do this, like centers. Okay. Centers that do this. Yeah. So they will have all the resources in one. I'm not going to leave you hanging. Just at 10 years old, it's right when puberty's hitting. So I don't know. I don't want to shortchange him and start testosterone blockers and his bones fuse and he's short. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't know if it'd be better to delay puberty or whatever they do till age 14, let them grow little bit and then start the T. It's just the trauma of it. Of course, no. That also takes into it that should we just be on blockers now, where nothing's going to grow. Testosterone the hormone blockers. Once you get over, they'll just stop you where you are. So I'd have to think about it. I usually don't do such young kids, 10-year-olds. So I'll call around and find a place for you guys. I won't leave you guys hanging. Yeah. So I know Cal and Lord. I don't know if you look them up. They're a big thing. They might do children. I just will call around.
We went to Callan Lord, which describes itself as, quote, the global leader in LGBTQ healthcare. The community health center based in New York City was quick to address what services could be offered to our hypothetical 10-year-old.
So I'm not sure why we don't take people younger than 13. So we don't have any surgical care. That's not part of anything we do here. Okay. But we refer patients we have surgery navigators, a team of them that help with external surgery. Yeah, I don't know what the youngest would be, but I can try to get that information. So I spoke to her, and so she said the only reason that we cut off at 13 is because we're a teen adolescent program. That's literally the reason that we don't do pediatric care. Okay. She said that it definitely exists. Pediatric trans care definitely exists. So Mount Sinai Adolescent Clinic, they started age 10. This is the doctor.
Oh my God.
Kind of supportive, have tons of group and supportive services. So this is the website to it.
So we spoke to Dr. Stever, who had this to say regarding minors seeking transgender care.
Would the next step, or is there a possibility that we could get them on puberty blockers soon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a 10-year-old, so I follow the WPATH guidelines, the World Professional Association Transgender Health Guidelines. And really what they would say is the way to go at this age 10, would be something like a puberty blocker. Either Leuprolide, which is an injection every 3 months, or triptorelin, which is an injection every 6 months. And that really stops puberty pretty quickly so that no further development of the secondary sexual characteristics happen. So things like there's no real chest development, there's no menstruation, things like that. And it's a safe medicine to use for up to 3-4 years or so. After that, there's some question about bone acquisition. When you then get to age 14 is when I'll consider some, cross-gender hormones. 14 is a reasonable age. Most kids are mature enough to make a relatively informed decision.
My name is Quentin Van Meter. I'm a board-certified pediatric endocrinologist.
So for people who have been following along, we did a series of streams where we were watching the testimony in the Texas House of Representatives, where people were either testifying in favor of or against a bill to restrict trans medical surgery in minors. And we're going to go back to that. We aren't done with that yet. We still got several more hours to go. But the reason I wanted to pause is because this is one of the doctors who testified in the Texas House of Representatives. He was on the very first stream that we did about it. He gave a lot of really great information. And he's also one of the doctors that actually, what was interesting at the Socialist Conference is I did a whole session about opposition research in which they assigned us doctors to look into their past to do opposition research on them. This is one of the doctors they're targeting. They're targeting him very, very, very heavily. And what they do when they're doing opposition research is they are looking for any way to discredit these doctors, and then they're feeding talking points to lefty state legislators, like state reps, to ask the doctors when they're testifying in these hearings, because they're trying to discredit them, essentially.
In private practice in Atlanta, Georgia. So the first one we'll talk about are the puberty blockers. That's a generic term. These are drugs that are very cleverly designed to interrupt the pituitary gland signaling to the gonad. That would either be the ovary or the testicle, to get them started. The body changes significantly. The brain changes significantly. The organs, the ovaries and testicles, change significantly. And if you interrupt that in the middle of what is supposed to be true puberty, you're taking away something that is necessary and truly physiologic in that child. We don't know if that can be recovered if it's blocked in the middle of adolescence. There are no studies to show that it's safe.
The science isn't really settled about the best way to do that. I have plenty of people who will stay on the puberty blocker and add in testosterone to give them the puberty that they are seeking. And that also helps really ensure that the puberty that they are not seeking, chest development and stuff like that, doesn't happen.
Puberty is not a disease. It's not something that you want to get rid of. You need it to move from a pre-reproductive state to a reproductive state. And without it, you can't get there.
Cross-gender hormones, testosterone in this case, do have some permanent effects. And so I need the patient to be mature enough to make a relatively informed decision. I get it that there are some 14-year-olds that are not, mature, but generally speaking, they usually are pretty good.
Once we obtained this footage at multiple sites in New York, we decided to investigate further by scheduling appointments at clinics all over the country. We visited nearly 50 different clinics across 8 states. Listen to what Nora Scott, a licensed social worker at Dell Children Medical Center in Austin, Texas, tells our undercover journalists.
We do have patients who are starting as young as 8, 9. So we do have folks on the younger side. So we take a few different types of patients, and there is not a wait list currently for our gender patients. So you could get scheduled more quickly than some of our other types of patients right now for those. And then in regards to prescribing, that's up to the prescriber's discretion, and they might just require a couple of appointments just to see. It might be appropriate after one. It's not something that we want to gatekeep and require someone to, come see us 10 times before it's prescribed. We have a list of gender-affirming therapists that we can provide too. So that's something outside of the clinic that's generally very.
But it's not required to be seen here.
But it's not required. It would be required if you were trying to go through, as they were older, like a formal surgery and you needed reference letters. You would need a therapist letter, but if you're not going through that process, it's not required.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we dive deeper into the lengths at which these clinics will go to provide transgender services to minors, including illegal migrant children.
All right, guys, that is the latest release from Project Veritas. I would definitely encourage everyone to share it. And you can go to their Twitter account and share it, or on whatever other platform they're on. Again, I want to emphasize this. Whatever issue you have with Project Veritas over the James O'Keefe fallout, And I didn't like it either when it happened. I was really disappointed. We need to put those issues aside because there are many good people who are working at Project Veritas. And to be quite frank, this information is more important than your feelings. What do you guys always say? Facts don't care about your feelings. This information and making sure that people are aware of this are more important than your feelings about what happened with James O'Keefe. I've seen this pattern on the right, where every time an influencer or an organization says something that people don't like or they don't want to hear, or they do something that people don't like or they don't want to hear, then people abandon the organization and all of the good work it does. And where do you go? Nowhere, because there's no other organization doing what Project Veritas is doing, or very few organizations doing what they're doing. And then all of a sudden, you've got all this great information that could actually be very helpful to you if you care about the goal of ending this bullshit, and you're ignoring it because your little fifis were hurt, and it doesn't make any sense. All right? We need to be sharing this information. You need to be supporting people who are doing this. Like, if you care about the end result, you put the goal ahead of your feelings. And you can share James O'Keefe stuff too. No one's saying otherwise. But it's time to grow up. We are in a bit of a predicament where we are significantly behind the 8 ball in what the left is doing to this country. And if we continue the infighting and the bickering and the nonsense, we are never going to make any progress, because I have never seen a circular firing squad as badly as I have seen in the political right and the anti-woke space. It is mind-bogglingly insane. And it makes no godly sense. We are all supposed to be on the same effing team, and we need to start acting like it. Jen, thank you for the super chat. I can't help but notice the Pinocchio-like infantilized, there we go, there's the word, infantilized fever dream that seems to be going on underneath all of this transitioning kids aspect. Make me a real boy or like a real girl. Find me like the blue fairy. Well, yeah, and that's what happens is people get emotional. I'm firmly convinced that when people go on like puberty blockers or they have these interventions, they get emotionally stunted at whatever age they had the intervention at. It's really weird, and it's quite frankly heartbreaking. Like, your brain needs to develop in a certain way, right? And if you're not allowing it to do that, then you are going to be stunted at like whatever age you started taking the puberty blockers on. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. But there are states that are taking a little bit of a different tact. The state of Washington, of course, is one of those states, the uber woke state of Washington. I'm sure my home state of Vermont will be following suit expeditiously. Let's read about what the state of Washington is doing. Washington bill to allow medical transition interventions on minors without parental consent. Let me make the font a little bit bigger for you guys. Oh, Jesus. Maybe not that big. I need to be able to read it too. A Washington state bill that would strip parents' rights to intervene on their kids' medical care in certain circumstances has passed the House. Yay! Not really. Clearing its pathway to being signed by Governor Jay Inslee. An act relating to supporting youth, or Senate Bill 5599, allows host homes for runaway youth to house youth without parental permission. By the way, the state of California is working on a very similar bill. It will strip parental rights after 12 years old if the school psychologist says so. Furthermore, the host homes do not need to notify parents about where their kids are or if they're getting medical interventions or if there is a compelling reason not to, which includes youth seeking protected health services. The protected health services include gender-affirming care, which for minors arbitrarily included anything prescribed by a doctor to treat dysphoria, the bill says. And I think we can all admit, based on what we just saw from Project Veritas, doctors aren't really, well, taking their role seriously in the prescriptions of these drugs or in following any sort of reasonable process for transing the children. Gender affirming treatment can be gender affirming treatment can be prescribed to two-spirit, transgender, non-binary, and other gender diverse individuals, the bill stated. For minors, affirming care typically included puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgeries. It is unclear which services would be approved under the bill. Instead of contacting parents, shelters can contact the Washington Department of Children, Youth, and Families. Oh, isn't that nice? Now we got some kids. There's a photo of them in the Capitol with some queer flags, some trans flags, some gay pride flags saying March for Queer and Trans Youth Autonomy. Oh, isn't that nice? Another compelling reason not to notify parents about kids staying in a host home was circumstances that indicate notifying the parent or legal guardian would subject the minor to abuse and neglect. The bill was criticized by opponents for being child abuse. Well, I think there might be an argument to be made there. The opposition said, according to the bill's text, a parent's job is to protect their child. This bill strips parents of that ability. Gender is in your imagination. The bill legalizes the kidnapping of children, allows for the harboring of minors, and segregates us from the union. Well, California is going to get segregated too, so it's not just you. After it passed the House, Democratic State Rep Tana Shane, whatever, who supported the bill, said, "I am saying tonight to them that I see you, and that I affirm you, and that I hear you, and that I love you," said Town Hall. Another sign with an Antifa-looking dude. And there you go. So I just want to let you guys know that, this is, the left is just pushing forward. This is what the left is great at. No matter what gets put in front of them, they literally just keep pushing forward. They literally just keep making that little bit of progress every single day. And if we are ever going to fight back against them and turn the woke cultural revolution that we're all experiencing on its heels, we need to be looking for these opportunities. We need to keep forging ahead. We need to stop making excuses about the left does this and the left does that, and they don't let us do this and they don't let us do that, and they censor us and they fix elections and all this stuff. Like, we've got to stop making excuses. If you want to win, if you actually want to make progress, you need to focus on policy. You need to focus on policy in the schools. You need to focus on what's going on with the transing of the children. You need to focus on actually doing things that will restrict the left from continuing to make this progress. I know that some people have an issue with it, but I actually think that the Missouri emergency rule restricting trans medical care is a really good first step. I think anything you can do legally, because it's so hard to do things legally, it's so hard to do things legislatively, I think anything that you can do there is a good start. But mostly, I just think that people need to remove their heads from their asses and to start actually doing things that matter. I feel like a lot of people on the right have given up. They've stuck their head in the sand. Do you guys know? I had a comment on my Substack earlier today for this article. I'm pretty sure it was for this one. It might have been for another one, but I had a comment on my Substack saying, "Is this only in the state of Massachusetts, or is this is just in liberal progressive cities, right, Carlin?" No. No. There are still a lot of people on the political right who do not know what's going on. This is why it is so important, guys. When I ask you to share my work, it is for a reason. There are still so many people who have no idea what is going on. And a lot of those people assume that if they live in a red state, that they're protected from all of this, and you are not. I promise you, Even in states where there are laws, you are not protected from this. If you continue to stick your head in the sand and ignore it and say, that's just in the progressive cities, I don't need to worry about it, your kids are going to be the next ones to be transed in the schools, because I can find this in pretty much any school district in America within 15 minutes, and that is not an exaggeration. Name me any school district in America, and I will show you the policies that they're putting in place to trans your kids within about 15 to 20 minutes. Because I'm really good at researching this stuff now. I created a whole program on researching this stuff. It's called Schools Exposed. And so people have got to start waking up. And every single person who understands this and has access to these materials, you have an obligation to make sure that your friends and family understand it, because your own media is not reporting on it accurately. I'm going to say that again. Your own media are not reporting on it accurately. So if you guys aren't going to tell each other what's going on, then no one else will. We all have a stake in this. We all have responsibility, and we all need to do whatever we can to spread the word about what is going on, to make sure that people understand, so that when it shows up in your life, then you will understand what's going on and you'll be able to identify it. What is the end game? Marxist revolution. It's not about, depopulation is going to come with that. They do want to depopulate 100%, but their goal is a Marxist revolution. The 4 goals of the woke left are always and forever: gain as much power as possible, destabilize the system, attack capitalism, usher in their Marxist utopia. Yes, all I need to find out what is going on in any school district is about 15 minutes. I can get you some cursory level research. I can show you what the trans policy is within about 15 minutes. Yeah. In any school district in America. No joke. Just test me. Name one. Not right now. We're doing a different stream right now, but send me any random name you want and I can find you the policy within about 15 minutes. Anyway, guys, we have now exited the dark dystopian portion of the show. And now we're going to play a game called How Stupid is the Canadian Broadcasting Company? Because after NPR rage quit Twitter, excuse me, we already had NPR and Twitter had a big blow up breakup in public, where NPR felt like Twitter wasn't being very fair. Twitter called NPR some horrible names. They called them state-funded media. NPR didn't like that. And so NPR rage quit. And then NPR got in touch with PBS and they went out for tea. And PBS decided to rage quit Twitter as well. And now we've gone international with this, folks. CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, has also rage quit Twitter. This is from ABC News. CBC pausing Twitter after government-funded media label. The Canadian Broadcasting Company paused its use of Twitter on Monday after the social media platform owned by Elon Musk stamped CBC's account with a label the public broadcaster says is intended to undermine its credibility. Now, it's funny that ABC is calling CBC a public broadcaster. What does public mean again? We're acknowledging that they're a public broadcaster, but we don't want to call them government-funded media. What does public mean again? Twitter labeled CBC Radio Canada government-funded media, the same label that prompted National Public Radio in the U.S. to summarily quit Twitter last Wednesday, and PBS followed suit shortly after. Twitter can be a powerful tool for our journalists to communicate with Canadians, but it undermines the accuracy and the professionalism of the work they do to allow our independence to be falsely described in this way, CBC spokesperson Leon Mars said in a statement announcing the change on Monday afternoon. Consequently, we will be pausing our activity on our corporate Twitter account and all CBC and Radio Canada news-related accounts. I know that we're all just so upset that the Canadian Broadcasting Company is not going to be tweeting anymore. How will we ever get through this deep, dark period in our history? Consequently, I already read that. CBC has sent a letter to Twitter asking the company to re-examine the designation. So CBC was unhappy, and Elon Musk got the memo that CBC was unhappy. And then Elon Musk updated the label on Twitter, and this is some of the funniest shit I've ever heard in my life. Elon Musk tweeted out, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation says they're less than 70% government funded, so we corrected the label. Look at what he did. He labeled the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation 69% government funded media. And this is real. This is real. This is actually the CBC's Twitter account right now, and it's still labeled 69% government funded media. And you know what's really great? Elon Musk got fact checked on his own tweet. Oh, indeed, it's not fact checked anymore. It was fact checked the other day. Let me refresh. Where did it go? Why? Why would you do this? Oh, it was fact checked not too long ago. But apparently, so what I saw, let me put this in my other browser because I definitely saw it be fact checked. I don't know what's going on there. Let me see if this shows up in my other browser. No, I guess not. Okay. Well, there was a fact check on it that says CBC is only 65% government funded media, Elon Musk. Anyway, this, I wasn't sure this was real. I kind of thought, like, when I saw this screenshot get tweeted out, I was like, no, he didn't. Yes, he did. 69% government funded media. Elon Musk retains his title as based king. What do they call Trump? The God Emperor? Yeah, I think Elon Musk has replaced Trump as the God Emperor of Twitter for sure. Now, again, Elon Musk is not a perfect person. He's kind of like a bitter, vengeful little bitch. I say that with the utmost respect. I really do. But Elon Musk can be a little bit bitter and a little bit petty in his responses. He really can. And I think that this is an example of him being bitter and petty, but it's hilarious. And so I don't really mind that he's bitter and petty. And so I had to share that with you guys because I thought that was funny. Now, something that people might not consider as funny as I do. Who here likes AI art? I love AI art. I love it. I think that this is one of the best inventions ever. I think it democratizes art. I think it gives everyone the ability to be creative. In fact, I am currently running and would invite you all to join the AI art contest on unwokeart.substack.com. This is where you can win prizes. You can win you can win gift cards to my merch store. You can win $100 gift card just by doing AI art. And what it is I've given people prompts to say, here are the subject matters that I want you to make AI art for, and you can win prizes for it just to try it out and to kind of get the creative juices flowing. We've got some great entries so far. You can see them on the Unwoke Art Substack. But I love AI art because it allows you to do crazy stuff like this. So shout out to Naruto. Naruto was the person who sent me this article. Instagram account Republicans is turning right-wing leaders into drag queens. How great is this? I fucking love it. An Instagram account called Republicans. Let's actually pull it up. Why not? Has gone viral after using AI art software to create artwork depicting Republican leaders as drag queens. I mean, they really do deserve it if we think about it. The amount of like nonsense and crying about drag queens when, listen, I don't think taking kids to drag shows is a good idea. I don't think it should be taxpayer funded. I don't think drag shows should be in schools at all. However, I also don't think that drag queens and drag shows are the horror that conservatives would have us believe they are. I just don't. I think the kids see them as cartoon characters. They see them as these larger than life cartoon characters. They don't even know what it is. The account is said to be in response to recent legislation enacted by Republican leaders and lawmakers. The account has gained widespread popularity after using software Midjourney to create a series of increasingly absurd images of individuals like Ben Shapiro and Clarence Thomas. Each post shows 3 to 4 AI generated images and is captioned with new feminized names for each GOP member to match their new look. Here's Ben Shapiro. I don't think that actually looks like Ben Shapiro, but okay. I do love the dress. The dress is fabulous. Come on. The Instagram account, which has merged the words RuPaul and Republicans, has already amassed quite an impressive patronage with over 225,000 followers as of writing this piece. According to the Philadelphia Inquirer, the Republicans' Instagram account was created by a New England couple, Craig and Stephen, and are using the social media platform to clap back at recent bills targeting the drag community. I mean, good for them, man. Good for them. Look at Clarence Thomas looking fabulous. I don't think that looks like Clarence Thomas either, but you know what? It is fabulous. It's a great use of AI art. We've got this. Come on. Come on. Come on. This is great. How can you not love this? We've got Ted Cruz, Steve Bannon. Oh, it's so good. Let's go over to their Instagram account. Let's see some more. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my. Who is this? Who is this? I don't know who this is. Lavish Lee. I don't know who this is. We got Ben Shapiro. Let's look at some of the other Ben Shapiro. Oh my. That's awesome. That actually does look like Ben Shapiro. Come on. Fabulous. 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 I love that one so much. Oh god, AI art is so fun. Oh, is this Steve Bannon? Wow. Wow. Come on. Is this Lindsey Graham? Oh, please. Lady Graham Cracker. Oh my god, it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. That doesn't look like Lindsey Graham. That looks like Lindsey Graham. Oh, it was Mike Lee. That first one was Mike Lee. Thank you. Thank you. Come on. Oh my god. Cruzella DeVille. Come on, Ted Cruz kind of looks fabulous in that one. You have to admit, this is amazing. This is the type of inspiration that I'm really looking for in the Unwoke Art AI art contest. Oh god, they had Mike Pence. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Look at this. It couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Wow. Oh my word. Who's this? Oh, Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy. Oh my god. Who's this? Matt Gaetz? Matt Gaetz has way better hair than that. Come on, they're doing Matt Gaetz a disservice. He has what? Well, look at that's got the Matt Gaetz quaff. That's pretty good. Oh, this is the best Twitter account ever. Who's this? Ron DeSantis. Oh, Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis. Oh my God. Oh, it's got Disney in the background. That's clever. That doesn't look like Ron DeSantis at all. Ron DeSantis was a disappointment. Who's this? Josh Hawley. That actually does kind of look like Josh Hawley. Oh my. This is like next level amazing. Wow, that's a fabulous dress. Look at that. This one, Rudy, oh God. That is Rudy Giuliani as a drag queen. That is absolutely Rudy Giuliani. Wow. Wow. All right. That's enough. That's all they have. But I wanted to show you that to you guys. Listen, man, AI art can be so fun, and I do want to encourage everyone. Make sure you join the Unwoke Art AI contest. It doesn't cost anything to join. It's just about being creative, playing with AI art, doing things in a different way. You can find out how to join the contest at unwokeart.substack.com. And I put the link in the chat on YouTube and on Facebook as well. You can find it there. And come play with AI art. AI art is so fun. I really do believe that creativity is the antidote to getting sucked into woke culture. And so just try it out, even if you've never done it before. Use Midjourney, use Dolly. There are so many AI art programs out there. You can use any one that works for you, that you want to play around with, but just experiment and allow yourself to be creative and allow yourself to think outside the box, and it'll be a really good time. All right, guys, now for our final moment of Zen, I need to get the other screen set up again so we can hear the sound. This is courtesy of my friend Eric Matheny. Make sure you're following Eric if you are not already. He is one of the kindest, nicest people in the conservative movement, and he's a dear friend. I love him so much. And Eric tweeted this out today, and this is what we're gonna be our final moment of Zen for the show today. John Fetterman chairing a subcommittee hearing, and here is John Fetterman's opening.
I call to this hearing of the U.S. Senate Subcommittee on Food and Nutrition, Specialty Crops, Organics, and Research to order. Chairwoman Stabenow and Ranking Member Boozman, thank you so much for coming. I thank you for your leadership on this committee, and I look forward to working with you to pass a farm bill. A farm bill that works for small farmers, rural communities, and hungry Americans. I would also like to thank my ranking member, Senator Braun. I look forward to working closely with you. SNAP is one of the most effective programs to fight hunger and poverty in the country. In my time and effort in IFAS, as the mayor of Braddock to lieutenant governor to now, I have heard from Pennsylvanians about their support for SNAP. Hunger is not a Republican or a Democrat issue. It's all of our issue that we have to take it on. We need to come together and stop playing political games with Americans' access to food. Americans like about Corey Jor from the north to the town of Northeast in Pennsylvania. He tells me that his victim was skimming, which was when somebody stole money and he relied from its SNAP EBT. Mr. Jor is not the first Pennsylvanian I've heard this from. I fear he won't be the last. And I will work in this farm bill to modernize SNAP to work to recipients in the 21st century. I look forward to hearing from you, your witness on this nutrition assistance on the farm bill. And I will now turn to Senator Braun for any opening comments that he would like to make.
I would just like to congratulate these citizens of the state of Pennsylvania. Listen, man. And you gotta acknowledge that the Republicans have some responsibility to bear for this as well, because they were the ones that chose to run Dr. Oz, and he was not the right candidate. He was never the right candidate. He was never going to win. I don't know why anyone thought that was a good idea. But you do have to feel impressed that the citizens of the state of Pennsylvania decided to elect a potato to the United States Senate. And some Democrats think John Fetterman would be a great presidential candidate because we have to be inclusive, and it is ableist to deny that John Fetterman would be just the most amazing Actually, you know what? I think John Fetterman would make a fabulous presidential candidate. I really do. Can you imagine? We would get several good debates out of it. It would be a whole year of hilarity. I think I endorse John Fetterman, 2024 Democratic presidential candidate. God help us if he ends up in the White House. But, we're all going to hell in a handbasket anyway. So it is what it is. Guys, that is the show for today. And I do just want to remind everyone to please make sure you head over to my Substack, carlin.substack.com. Please share this article about them giving psychotherapy and support group to trans children starting at 3 years old. Please share it. I want people to see this information. I think it's really important. And if you want to support my work while you're there, you can do so by signing up for a subscription, $5 a month, $50 a year. I am completely 100% funded by you. I can't do it without you. I have another socialist conference I'm looking into later in the year, and I'm going to need a lot more resources for that. I don't want to crowdfund for it. I will if I have to, but what I would really prefer is if people just voluntarily signed up to financially support what I'm doing through a subscription, and just be adults. If you value it, then support it. And I get this socialist conference later in the year is a really big deal, guys. I really want to make it happen, but I can only make it happen with your help. Now, I might be back later tonight, maybe around 10, 11 o'clock at night, because I kind of want to do a Nick Fuentes After Dark stream tonight. And because I want to catch up on this whole Nick Fuentes, Ali Alexander bullshit. And I just haven't had a chance to do it yet. So we make time for things we value. And really, the Groypers are out at night. Maybe the Groypers will come join us in the chat. They'll show us how anti-Semitic and racist and ridiculous they really are, which is always a fun time. But be on the lookout. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications. I might be going live for a little impromptu late night after dark. And if you miss it, you miss it. It'll be on the channel tomorrow. But just stay tuned for that later tonight. I'm not sure when exactly I'm going to do it, but that is in the back of my mind. I just have other stuff I need to do first because, I have a life too. But guys, regardless, I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. for another episode of The Cult. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I will see you then. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you soon. Bye.